بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد. When we look at Quranic usage, generally speaking, the concept of wilaya is mentioned there. And Allah is the one who has this wilaya. Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu. Allah is the authority or the guardian over the believers. And because of this wilaya, the function of this wilaya, يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور, takes them out of darkness into light. فالله هو الولي وهو يحيي الموتى. Allah is the wali, Allah is the guardian, the authority, and through this He takes them out of death into life, means the hearts. إنما وليكم الله ورسوله. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that originally the authority is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wilaya is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah gives this authority and wilaya to the Prophet, and after that to Imams. So wilaya in one definition, as it is mentioned in many books, is to love. So we have the wilaya of Rasulullah means to love him. Wilaya of Ahlul Bayt means to love them and to follow them because of the love that we have. When it comes to theological definition, we see that there are two usages for wilaya, and also in fiqh. One is Wilayat Tashri'i and the other is Wilayat Takwini. Wilayat Tashri'i, or you can say legislative authority, or you can call it also in some examples of it instructional authority, is a kind of authority which is delegated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to some people like the prophets. So the Prophet is chosen out of people to have this wilaya. Of course, he had a good character, he was a good person, but anyhow, the authority that he has is a position given to him by Allah. Means that Allah has chosen him to have that authority. So this is called Wilayat Tashri'i. The second type of wilaya is the wilaya that is called today Wilayat Takwini, and it is concerning a person developing and strengthening the soul in a sense that it gets close to Allah, and by that he can do some extraordinary acts because of the power in the soul. From the 3rd century, the concept of wilaya is mentioned by Urafa. So the concept of wilaya, that the arif, a person who is close to Allah, has a kind of wilaya. And by wilaya, they mean this concept. Later on in the 7th century, we see that a person like Abu Sa'id Abul Khair explains it. Khaj Abdullah Ansari in his book also, when he's talking about the 100 manazil and positions of Irfan that they have brought in that book of us about Irfan. In different parts, he refers to this wilaya. So they used to call it wilaya. And to call it Wilayat Takwini, so to use Takwini by the concept of wilaya together, it is something like 200 years old. So the term is new. But anyhow, the concept is there. The concept is that a person's soul is so powerful that can do extraordinary things. If you remember, we talked about in those series that we had, the prophets are not ordinary people. In those series, we talked about the development of the soul, that a person can reach to such powers. Also, in this series of Tawassul and Istighasa, we talked about how you get close to Allah according to hadiths, and Allah will strengthen your soul. This is the outcome of getting close to Allah. And we mentioned the hadiths from the Sunni books about the Prophet healing the sick in different occasions, giving barakah to small food, reviving dead, and the other miraculous acts that even Ibn Taymiyyah said uluf, There are thousands of such things narrated from the Prophet. So we believe that these are because of the soul of the Prophet. Because there is a debate whether when the Prophet is healing, is it just a dua from the Prophet? The Prophet asks Allah to give shifa, or no? The Prophet heals the person himself, of course, by the permission from Allah. When he heals the person, means that he has a power to heal the person, but the power is coming from Allah, but the power is in the Prophet. So it's not just merely asking Allah. It's not a request. We went into details about it, and inshallah also we refer to some points. So the concept is there from the very first century, from the time of the Prophet. And later on, when they were writing books, so they used to coin terms for them. So the term Wilaya is coined 3rd century, and Wilayat Takwini recently, in the recent 2 centuries. So as we said, Wilayat Takwini is to have such a power, and so this is different from Wilayat Tashri'i. You see that in Wilayat Tashri'i, it's a right which Allah gives to a person to issue. So Allah gives the authority, and at the time of, for example, occultation of Imam, we see that ulama have this authority. When a faqih is given such authority to rule politically, to financially be in charge of using the public money, so it's a position given to the person by Allah. So this person is given such a position. This is Wilayat Tashri'i. But in Wilayat Takwini, it's not like this. In Wilayat Takwini, you have to develop yourself. You cannot get Wilaya just to say that now I have this position, so I have this authority. You have to struggle, you have to develop the soul and the self. When Ruh is strong, then it will be powerful to do such a thing. Like a person who goes to, powerlifting, bodybuilding, when they strengthen the body and now they can lift heavy weights that the others cannot do. So it's not a kind of position to give to a person, to a weak person, to say that now you are the best bodybuilder, you are going to lift 300 kilos. He cannot do that. It's a creational reality. You have to go through the exercise, you have to strengthen the muscles, you have to go through practice, then you will have such a power. So this is not just to be given to somebody by an authority. You have to have such capability. Wilayat Takwini is different from the Wilayat Tashri'i in this sense. When we look at the examples of this Wilayat Takwini, we see that there are different aspects to it, or different examples we can find in the text. One is to have a kind of capability to interfere in the ordinary rules of the life, the material life. So they can do things that the others cannot do. For example, he goes into fire, but he's not burnt. This is against the ordinary laws. According to the laws of the nature, when you get into fire, you have to be burnt. But the person who is of such a wilaya, he has such a power, his soul is such powerful to break such a law. Like Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, we mentioned the hadith says that Imam, when he lifts the door of Khaybar, Imam says, ما قلعته باب خيبر بقوة جسمانية. It wasn't these muscles physically, blood and bone and muscle to lift such a heavy door. But it was a soul which was powerful, which was strengthened by the light to come from Allah. So the light, Imam is referring to as light. This light which strengthens the soul of Amirul Mu'mineen to lift such a door, this is a kind of wilaya that he has, so he can interfere in the rules of the nature. Another point or another form of such wilaya is informing about the things that people don't know, that you can call it ghaib. ilmul ghayb. As Isa alayhi salam mentioned in Quran that I tell you what you have kept, what you have hidden in your houses, means that I know the secrets that you have. So ordinary people cannot know these things. This is ilmul ghayb. Of course, ilmul ghayb is for Allah, but Allah can give to His servants. We have discussed these things. I don't want to get into them to take time. And we have lots of such stories in the life of the Prophet and also in Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that they knew things that people didn't know. Another one that can be from this is to be shaheed, means to be witness upon people. To be witness upon and over people in what they do. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 105, وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا O Allah, O Rasul, tell them, do whatever you do, فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ أَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ Allah will see your act, the Prophet will see your act, and mu'minun, the believers, will see your act. We have many hadiths which are sahih. We, in this series of Tawassul and Istighasa, we mentioned those hadiths, sahih hadiths in this regard, that these mu'minun are a'imma alayhimus salam, and they see the Prophet and a'imma, they see our acts in this, while the Prophet and Imam is in this life or is not in this life. So they have this capability of seeing our acts, and they are shahid, they are witness upon us. And this is not about the hereafter. In the hereafter is another issue. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Some people may say, sin is for future. So this future is the day of judgment. While it is not always the same. Usually for far distance, they use sofa. Sin sometimes might be a very near future. That's why after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. وَسَتُرَدُّونَ, this is referring to the Day of Judgment. فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ أَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Allah and the Rasul and the believers will see your act. Then after that, وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. And later you will turn to Allah who knows the ghaib. So this is the second part. When the second part is referring to Qiyamah, the first part shouldn't be about Qiyamah. Is in this dunya. This is a indication. The context shows that this sayyara is not for Qiyamah, because after that said, and later وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. This is about Qiyamah. So the first part is before that, means before Qiyamah, and this tafsir is supported by many hadiths that sahih hadiths that we mentioned. Another aspect of this Wilayat Takwini that we can find is to have control over your khiyal, over your imagination. We all have this faculty of khiyal, and we always like to have control over it. We all have such a dream, not to have a wandering, illusion and imagination and khiyal that it goes from here to there. To have it focused on something. Like for example in ibadah, in worship, when you're performing salat, we like to have concentration in salat. But it's difficult, we cannot do that. So it gets out of control. So a person who strengthens himself in the way of getting close to Allah and in the way of perfection, then one of the powers that this wilayah creates in them is that they can have control of their khiyal. We have heard this hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam that when they wanted to take out the arrow from his leg, they said it was painful, so they said do it while he's performing salat, because at that time all the attention is to Allah, and then he will not pay attention to the pain. He will not he will not feel the pain. Means that he has a kind of attention to Allah that he will be disconnected from the pain of the body. We have such thing also narrated from Some of our ulama, like Laytayatullah Khansari, he had a fatwa that when a mujtahid is unconscious, at that moment the a'mal and the acts of his muqallideen, his followers, is batil. Because the faculty of ijtihad is gone at that moment. So he had to do a surgery, and to do the surgery, they said that we have to inject you, the medicine, then you will be unconscious. And he didn't accept. He said that when you wanted to do surgery, just let me know, and then I will tell you. The moment that they wanted to start, the doctor said, do it. If we are going to do it, then he said, after I start quranic, then you can do the surgery. He started Surah Yasin. He recited Surah Yasin. They cut the stomach. They did the surgery, and he didn't notice. He was a person that Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayhi, he used to say that we have to talk about the isma of Agha Khansari, not about his idala and justice. So he's beyond idala. He was such a figure and personality. So I mean, this is a kind of wilaya, that you will have such a concentration over your khiyal and imagination, and this is one of the fruits of such a wilaya. Another aspect of wilaya that we see in the life of urafa and awliya, frequently has been mentioned in different books, is takhliyatul jasad. We have a soul and body, and this soul and body are connected to each other. So our soul needs the body in order to develop itself. So there is a kind of mutual impact of the body on the soul. The haram that you eat affects your soul. When you look at something haram, it hurts your soul. When you hear something which is haram, it damages the soul. So the body is the gates of soul towards action and practice. So our body influences our soul, and also our soul influences the body. For example, when your soul is in a kind of pain, your body feels it. When you are embarrassed, your face goes faints. When you are angry, your face goes red. Means that when the soul is in a kind of change, it affects the body. So there is a kind of mutual relation between soul and the body. And when awliyaullah, they get strong, they reach to a level that the soul is such strong that sometimes it doesn't need the body. So the soul can farewell the body and get out of the body and be free. So the body falls like a dead corpse, and the soul can be free without the limitations of the body, and then it can return back to the body. There are people that for some seconds in their life they have experienced such a thing. But awliyaullah, they have the capability to do it the moment that they decide. And the other one is to interfere in the issues of the world, in the worldly issues. So this is what we call it Morteza or karama, to be miracle or to be extraordinary act that the person does by the permission to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like healing the sick, like increasing the food, like making the animal to speak, and all those stories that we mentioned. These are the capabilities of the person who is strong in the soul. And in the concept of Wilayat Takwini, how can a person reach to it? Again, we talked about it in the previous sessions, that it is by getting close to Allah. When we practice religion and rituals, halal and haram in Sharia, halal and haram, one reward might be that when you die in the future, the other realm of life, you will have a good life. But it doesn't negate that it will create a kind of change in you as well. So the Shari'i rulings are not just some meaningless acts we do in order to just show our obedience to Allah. So when something is haram, because it has an impact on your soul. When something is wajib, because it has a positive impact on your soul. And Allah, the one who knows your soul very well, So He commands you to do things, and through performing those things, your soul will be trying to reach to such capabilities and such strength. And this strengthening of the soul, this is what we call it wilaya, means it goes under the authority of Allah, and Allah strengthens the soul. So those powers of Allah will come to the person, and this is the meaning of getting close to Allah. So when we are talking about getting close to Allah, Allah is not here. You not just move from your place A to go to place B. This is a physical sense. So closeness to Allah means that you get close to Allah in His names. In those series of Asma'ullah, I talked about it. If somebody is interested, they can refer to. So closeness to Allah means to create Asma'ullah within yourself. How can you do that? Getting close to the names of Allah. Allah is Ar-Rahman. So when you practice Ar-Rahman in your actions, in your acts, in your behavior, in your thinking, so you are getting close to that name. Allah is Alim, Allah is Qadir, Allah is Hayy. So as much as you get close to the names of Allah by practicing the commands of Allah, these names will be created in you. فَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْوَلِي وَهُوَ يُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. He gives life to the dead souls. This is the wilaya that comes. That's why Allah says, فَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْوَلِي. This function of wilaya, which is Wilayat Takwini, is in reviving the dead souls by getting close to the names of Allah. So getting close to Allah means that you are manifesting the names of Allah in yourself. So you receive from the knowledge of Allah, you receive from the power of Allah. As we mentioned the hadiths from Shia and Sunni books, like for example, the hadith which is in Usulul Kafi, ما تقرب إلي عبد بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضت عليه. Nobody gets close to me other than the way of performing the wajibat. And also by nawafil later on, he says. Then when they obey what I say, the hadith also with a very similar concept is in Sahih Bukhari in the Sunni sources. Allah says, when He gets close to me by nawafil, then I start loving Him. فَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ, when I love Him, كُنْتُ سَمْعُهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ, I will be His ears, that He hears by that ear. وَبَصَرُهُ الَّذِي يُبْصِرُ or يَبْصُرُ بِهِ, and I will be His eyes that He looks and watches through them. بَلِسَانُهُ الَّذِي يَنْتِقُ بِهِ, and I will be His tongue that He talks. And I will be His hands, I will be His legs. So when Allah is your eyes, what does it mean? It means that when you get close to Allah in Allah's by practicing the commands of Allah, Allah is your eyes means that then these eyes can see things that the others cannot see. These ears can hear things that the others cannot hear. So from here it refers to another delicate point, that there are things in this life that we don't hear them, we don't see them. We just see the things and hear the things which are material, from this alamul madda, from this physical material thing. But there are other existential realities that they are a kind of a subtle and gentle existence, that you cannot touch them by these five senses. You need another capability to sense them. Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha says, at the moment of revelation, I smelled nubuwwah. I smelled prophethood. How can you smell prophethood? You know, Alamul Misal is something that it doesn't have the material this quality, but it has the qualities. Like what you see in your dreams. In your dream you see, for example, a house, a building. It has the shape, it has the color, it has everything, but it doesn't have the material. There is no materiality. That's why in your dream you fall from a 100-story building and nothing happens to you. You don't die in your dream. Still you see that you are alive. But the qualities are there. You see a person in your dream, shape and everything is there, but without the material entity to be there. From that type of things, for example, Quran talks about the angels which are there with the wings that they have, but we cannot see them. But a person like Mary can see the angel. From Bani Israel, we see that Mary, salamullah alayha, is the only person who can see the angel. So you can see the angels. And Allah says, if you see them, they are in a form that they have wings. We don't need to, do ta'wil of these verses to say, no, wing is something else, and it doesn't mean this, that they have wings. The Quran is talking about it. So why should we deny it? So there is an existence. The Prophet can see the angels. So the Prophet can see the angel. Imam Amirul Mu'mineen says, I hear the voice of shaitan, and I asked Rasulullah, what is this? He said, it's shaitan shouting. So Imam Amirul Mu'mineen can hear things that you cannot hear. He can see things that you cannot see. Why? Because the eyes are different. These are the eyes of a person that Allah is his eyes. Allah is his ears. Allah is his hand. Actually, when Allah is Ali's hand, means also Ali is the hand of Allah. So Yadullah, when we call him Yadullah, the hand of Allah, means that Allah performs his command through the hand of Ali. And this is because of closeness of Amirul Mu'mineen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah says, I will be his ears, I will be his eyes, this is wilayah. This is the concept of wilayah that will be created in the person as a result of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is by the control of nafs, by the performing salat. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in Quran says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So the function of siyam, the function of fasting is that you will practice taqwa. Or إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Salat is not just a ritual to practice and nothing is happening to you. Salat will make you of a state that you will reject munkarat, you will like what is good and what is to ascend you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you will have a kind of insight that the others doesn't have. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu in tattaqullah yaj'al lakum furqana. If you observe taqwa, as a result of taqwa, you will have a kind of capability to distinguish and differentiate between truth and false. You can see things in a way that the others cannot see. This is not only the matter of having IQ and being smart. This is a kind of capability and wisdom and vision that ordinary people, they don't have it. You can get it through taqwa. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, and many other verses. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hadid verse 28, for example, says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَآمَنُوا بِرَسُولِهِ. Now, O believers, اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَآمَنُوا. This amanu is different from that amanu. Because Allah is addressing, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. O people of faith, have faith in Allah. Already you called them people of faith. But this faith is different from that faith, because that faith is already there. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ittaqullah. After taqwa, aminu. This aminu is higher. Once I talked about the different levels of Islam and Iman in Quran, then I will mention these higher levels of Iman. That Allah says, as a result of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support you. وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ نُورًا تَمْشُونَ بِهَا. Allah will give you a light. Then you can walk through that light. That light will help you, will show you what to do, what not to do in the life. A light that others do not have it. A light that teaches Imam Hussein what to do. A light that the others do not have it. So Imam Hussein can do things, can see things that the others cannot do, because they don't have the vision. All the politicians, or you can say geopoliticians of the time, they were saying that Imam Hussein is wrong. In his journey, you see that Abdullah Abbas, Abdullah Zubair, Abdullah Umar, all they come and say that this is wrong. And later on, they found that Imam was right. But you need time. Time should pass. Some years should pass. Then you find that what he was seeing at that time that you couldn't see. Imam alayhi salam, in a simple sentence, said, I wish we were in Medina, then I could show you the place of the wings of Jibreel in our house. We are the family of revelation. I have that wisdom and insight that you don't have. And I know at this time I cannot explain it to you, but time will prove to you that who was right and who was wrong. So this is the Furqan that Imam alayhi salam has, and it is because of the pure soul, the strong soul that he has, that I said it will have such capabilities and powers that the others will not have. And this is a gift to the soul of the person. We mentioned the stories in Quran in those 6 sessions, and some brothers were saying that how come that you are proving, for example, such capability for Yusuf alayhi salam or for Asif bin Barkhiyat, then you want to say that because they had, then Imam Hussein also had, the Prophet also had. So this is a comparison. While we were not doing the comparison, we didn't want to say that because they had, so our Prophet had. We wanted to say that these verses show that man can have such authority. So we were about to prove the possibility. When the possibility is proven according to Quran, then when we find it in the life of the Prophet and Imams alayhi salam, then it's not surprising. It's not strange, because this is how man can be and a true man should be. Like, for example, in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that he told to those people, اذهبوا بقميصي هذا, take my shirt, فألقوه على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا. They put it on the eyes of my father, he will have his sight back. When Yaqub alayhi salam was blind. So Yusuf didn't pray, didn't say, okay, I will pray, then my father will have his sight back. He said, take my shirt. Means it is to show, Allah is about to prove that this is Yusuf who is healing his father. And why through the shirt? Then you have to know that Yusuf is involved in this. If Yusuf just wanted to pray between him and Allah, oh Allah, give shifa to my father. So nobody could see the influence of Yusuf here. But it should be through the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam. And usually when they do things, they do through very simple things. He gives shifa through a shirt. While shirt, what is the relation between shirt? If Yusuf was about to give a medicine, give this medicine to my father, then he will have his eyesight. Then you could say that, no, it was the impact of the medicine. But awliyaullah, when they do these extraordinary things, they do it through simple things. And this is one of the differences between industry, technology, and miracle. The things that the prophets did through miracle, some people may do it through technology. Musa alayhi salam split the sea. By the technology, you may split the sea. But you are doing it through technology, through machines, through science. But Musa did it through a stick. Why? To show that this is not the influence of the stick. This is the influence of the soul which is putting the stick there. Sometimes his people need water, they are thirsty. Allah says, put your stick on the stones, there will be rivers coming out. So this stick is to make rivers to flow and to run. Sometimes it is to make the sea to split. So this is the soul of Musa alayhi salam, which is having such capability and such power, but he should do it through that simple things, then people know that it is Musa who is doing that. So instead of Musa, if another person from Bani Israel was to take this stick and to put it on the sea, it wouldn't happen. So it needs the hand of Musa alayhi salam. So it's not the stick who is splitting the sea. So it is the hand of Musa, and the stick in the hand of Musa can do such a thing. That's why in the story of Hazrat Sulaiman, it's very clear. We talked about these verses. I don't want to get into details. When Sulaiman alayhi salam wanted to bring that throne of the queen of Saba, he said that, Ya ayyuhal mala, ayyukum ya'tini ba'arshaha qabla an ya'tuni muslimin. Who can bring his throne from that country to here? So when Sulaiman asked the question, what does it mean? It means that Sulaiman believed that you can do. His people around him, they had such capability and power. Otherwise, it was meaningless to ask such a question. And they also answered. They said, one of them said, "أنا آتيك به قبل أن تقوم من مقامك." How long does it take if you raise from your seat? He said, I will bring it less than that time. And he said, إني عليه لقوي أمين. I am strong enough to do that. You see, it's not a matter of I will pray, then Allah will. Otherwise, Sulaiman could pray. So it's not a matter of praying. This is wilayah that the person has. He said, إني عليه, to do that, لقوي أمين. You can trust me, and I have the power to do that. The other person said, أنا آتيك. I can bring it قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك. Before blink of eye. Less than that. He said, أنا آتيك. He didn't say, I will pray, then Allah will do that. So it means that the power is in the soul of the wali. He can do such a thing. Again, in other places about Sulaiman alayhi salam, such stories have been mentioned. About Isa alayhi salam, we talked about it. That Allah says, in تخلق, you created. وتبرئ الأكمه والأبرص, you give shifa. You do that. Didn't say you ask and I give shifa. إني أخلق لكم من الطين كهيئة الطير فأنفخ فيه فيكون طيرا بإذن الله. He said, I create, I give shifa, I وأحيي الموتى. I am the one who revives the dead to life. Didn't say I pray. Means that the power is in wali, and this wali is the person who can do these extraordinary things. So briefly, this is the Wilayat Takwini that we have. The concept is in Quran, the concept is in Hadiths. I said terminology doesn't matter. Terminology might be, the term Wilayat Takwini might be coined later, but it's not going to change the truth and the concept which is there in Quran and the Hadith. So it is, we believe that awliyaullah, imams, the Prophet, they had this wilayah, and it was the result of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.